I really believed that I wanted this big city life. So I chased my dreams when I was younger. I also burnt myself out terribly along the way. And when my mom passed, it was like my whole world kind of got flipped upside down. I was in rough shape. It was like life earth shattering. Everything that I ever knew was gone. I remember being with her at chemo treatment. Everybody's sick there. Like everybody's getting basically poison put in them. Another download comes in and I'm like, I want to create a center where people can heal. Like, this isn't right. Wait a minute. There's got to be a different way. So I'm sitting with Amy, and one day she is just like, we're selling a retreat center in Bali right now. And I was like, I want this center. It's for me. I'm going to take it. It's the wildest blind faith I've ever had, but it worked out.
So welcome, Tammy Martinez, to the Soulful Living podcast. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share with you. And I'm really proud of you and happy that you're doing this. So thank you.
Thank you. So Tammy's coming to us from Ubud, Bali. So Bali is in Indonesia. It is a very spiritual place and a place I'm so fortunate to have visited last summer. So I'm really excited for Tammy to dig in. Tammy has a lot to talk about, many things that she could discuss with us, but I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to dig in today. So Tammy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Grew up in a small household in a very suburban area in Michigan. And along the way, I really believed that I wanted this big city life, right? So I chased my dreams when I was younger, moved to big cities, Chicago, Miami, New York, really chased what I thought was what I was supposed to be doing, which was advertising and marketing. Throughout the years, I gained a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and I also burnt myself out terribly along the way. I was living the dream, lived in this gorgeous loft, was working for an advertising agency, and was just like, okay, I've made it, I've done it. And when my mom passed, it was like my whole world kind of got flipped upside down. So during that time was when I started to learn about spirituality. And that started with a yoga teacher training. It was just, okay, how do I balance my emotions? How do I get through these next few months of craziness in trying to help her during her final months? And as I was...
Did you do that yoga teacher training when she was sick, or did you
Yeah.
do the yoga teacher after she passed?
It was before she passed. I had kind of gotten to a place in my career where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was traveling between Michigan and Miami, and my stress levels were just beyond through the roof. It was like family, boyfriend, work. Work was a 24-hour commitment. And so I decided to step away from my position as VP at that time. And in that transition, I was like, well, what should I do next? What am I supposed to be doing? And I knew that yoga had helped me a few times. And I said, fuck it. I'm just going to try this. Like, I'm going to take this training and see what's here. I didn't know what to expect. I just knew what I was doing wasn't working. Yeah.
What I love about yoga teacher training, and I really want our audience to know this, taking a yoga teacher training isn't just because you want to become a teacher. Like, I'm sure you weren't even thinking of becoming a yoga teacher. Yoga teacher training is a great place for self-development. It's a great place to find out who you are. Many people do the yoga teacher training for themselves, for their personal growth. So it's, to me, if you're a yogi and you love the practice, I always will recommend people go do a teacher training because you're going to transform yourself. You don't have to be a teacher, and it also deepens your practice. So that's beautiful. That's what called you was to go start with yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
Or was that the beginning of your path, you would say?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was kind of this pivotal moment of like, huh, there's something here. And I remember as I was going through this training, like putting together these ideas in my head, because at one point I did think I was going to become a yoga teacher. I was like, okay, now, well, I'll do something practical with this. And I was like, I'll own a studio. Like that'll be my next step. So I put together these ideas of like, here's what we're going to do in the studio. And because I was in experiential marketing, I was like, it's going to be experiential yoga. We're going to have like sense and taste and sound and light. And so I had these visions of like creating an atmosphere. So, of course, here we are years later, like that went into effect. But at that time, it was just a seed was planted of like, there's a different way to live. I don't have to live under these serious pressures and like high level stress. Like there is another way, and there's a way to do it that will bring me joy and excitement and balance instead of like just being, burning the candles at both ends. Um, so yeah, I did my training in Miami, and it was, a humble little studio, and it was called Om Beats, and now it's, I think, Brickle Yoga. They just sold a few months ago. But it was just a great door opening, and from there, as the path changes and shifts, and there's all these different directions that come in, and that was in 2017. So a lot has happened since then.
A lot that happened since then. So tell me, your mom passed away from cancer. What kind of cancer was it that she had?
She had cancer in her mouth. And so, part of her journey was actually a really important part of my journey as well. I think because she was so sick, my mom was sick for about 10 years. She had went through the medical system, every type of cancer treatment you could have. She had, from chemo to radiation to immunotherapy to 14 surgeries. And I just witnessed, being by her side, like how messed up the medical system was, what people were doing to treat what their serious illnesses were. And I knew it wasn't right. I knew that, what I was witnessing was not how we were supposed to heal. And so there was another pivotal moment. And I remember being with her at a chemo treatment, and we were sitting in the hospital, and like it was this huge room, and there's 50 people in the room, and they're all getting treatment, and there's buzzers going off and nurses and doctors running around, and everybody's sick there, like everybody's getting basically poison put in them. And again, another download comes in, and I'm like, I want to create a center where people can heal. Like, this isn't right. And so at one point in my mind, I was like, how do I create a hospital? Like a hospitality hospital where, people can come in and we're actually caring for them. We're giving them nurturing and love and connection, and we're supporting them in a way that's like good for the person and not just, good for the medical system. So that was another moment of like, wait a minute, there's got to be a different way. So these little snippets along the way were like, you're getting there, you're getting closer, keep going. Like these are the things that, you really that became very important to me.
What that brought up for me was, I think it was Donna Karen. I had read this once, that she designed a hospital wing and made it so peaceful and warm. Yeah. And people healed better, or they transitioned easier. And I know that there's people out there that want to create these things. And I hope that's something we can see. I mean, I understand hospitals need to be sterile, but they don't need to be sterile in the aesthetics. It can be a much calmer, prettier environment. And I agree with you that that's how people can heal.
Yeah.
So it is sad in the Western world, the way the medical system is like that. And yes, Western medicine is needed. The advances in science and technology, and saving and healing people, reattaching arms and legs, and transplants of organs. Okay, we can't do that stuff spiritually. But if work like Dr. Joe Dispenza, a woman grew her thyroid back through meditation. And I'm not talking she meditated once, thyroid grew back. She did work. She meditated for hours a day, days on end, and transformed like that. But if we could change those environments that people have to be in, maybe that will help people heal. So I love that that was planted in you. So you were able to be with your mom, which is so special that you were able to spend that time with her in the last years of her life and be able to say the things I would hope that you wanted to say. I'm sure you knew that the end was coming. So to have those opportunities to be by her side and not lose her suddenly was probably really special for the two of you and bonded your connection past her life.
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful, it was chaotic, it was crazy, it was, all the things that you go through when you go through a big loss, but it was such a pivotal time in my life to be able to go through that threshold, like that rite of passage. And it also, I mean, it just propelled me in such a different direction. It was like it gave me a different purpose in life. And um I think about her, and when I think about her now, I think about the fact that, would I choose my mom to be here? Of course. But at the same time, like the choice that I have now is like, how do I continue to do good with it? Like I can't have her back. So how do I continue to honor her legacy, honor her life? Like how do I continue to give back to the world in the way that she did? And, I do that through helping others heal, through connection, through continuing to grow, like through seeing life in the way that I see it now. And even though it was the most difficult time of my life, I think that it was one of the biggest gifts that I've ever received, because had she not passed, had she not went through what she went through, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I wouldn't be who I am now, you know? Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Amazing. And I can't wait to dig into what it is that you are doing. But what I'd love to know, you were early on your path, you had done your teacher training when your mom was sick. What tools helped you to support her? What self tools, what were you doing for yourself as you were there taking care of her? And then what tools can you share with our audience that helped you with the grief?
Great question. So
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really became important to me during those times was just like how to level my energy, how to be present with her without like the ups and the downs. Like clearly I'm going to be emotional. Clearly it's a difficult place to be in, but how do I hold space for her? And how can I regulate my breath? And how can I regulate, my stress level to support her? Because looking at her, she's going through way more than I can imagine going through, right? So I think that breath became a big tool for me in those days. And it became something that really became my anchor. And it was just, how do I resource myself? And, with the yoga teacher training, you do learn pranayama and you learn some breathing practices, but it was really just how to connect back in with myself. Because if I, in those moments, if I wasn't level-headed, if I wasn't relaxed, if I wasn't able to like, present myself to her in a way that helped her feel at ease, then what am I doing for her? How am I serving her? It's like if your cup's not full, how do you serve to others? Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're coming to her with anxiety and stress, and she's already in anxiety and stress, it gets multiplied. So were you meditating at that time?
Um, at that time, I'm just thinking back to it. It was a lot of chaos. I didn't have a lot of free time to take up personal time and space. It was pretty much a 24-hour job. It was really intense. But it was, just connecting in with the breath. And when I had time to have downtime, it was just like, how do I slow down? How do I calm my nervous system? How can I be present and be here? And I would say before she passed, I mean, that was my biggest anchor. I would put lavender essential oil and burn it and, have our diffusers going to like help bring relaxation into the room. I would listen to music with her. So I would put on like different Hertz music and things like that to kind of help regulate her nervous system and regulate mine. But yeah, it wasn't really until after that I started digging a little bit deeper and learning about breath work and diving into grief work and things like that. So it was a little bit of fight or flight, before she passed. It was just how do we get her through this? And I think I was learning in those moments like you I got everything thrown at me that I could have possibly ever experienced. So at this point in time, it's like when tragedy strikes or chaos happens, it's like I've seen the worst of it. I've seen the worst thing I could ever experience. So that was a learning, like once you've went through the worst of it, there's not much more that can alarm you.
Right.
Yeah.
You just touched on so many things I want to dig into. First of all, audience, what I want to get into, just one thing that Tammy mentioned was essential oils. So essential oils are healing tools. I mean, in ancient times, forever, they were used in alchemy to heal people. And now we're so fortunate. There's companies like doTERRA and Young Living and thousands of others that make these essential oils. Lavender is great for relaxation. My dad used to put it on the bottom of his feet and
Yes.
diffuse it. And he would tell me, oh my God, I can't believe how great I sleep now when I use the oils. I know women who have had their breast implants removed and they refused antibiotics and they used oils. They capsulated, I think it was like oregano oil, lemon, peppermint, different ones. There's formulas out there, put it in capsules and took it 5 times a day. And they didn't take antibiotics post surgery. So there's a whole world of essential oils out there. And then the other thing that you mentioned is frequency and hertz and music. Everything in life is frequency. We carry frequencies. The earth carries frequencies, and there are different megahertz that are out there that will change your vibration and help regulate your nervous system. For me, I'm a big practitioner of Kundalini yoga, and there's a lot of mantras, and that repetition of the mantra calms the nervous system. So I love that you intuitively knew at that time or were aware enough to use the essential oils and to use the music to help calm. The Golden Temple in India, which is the head of the Sikh religion, there's prayer going on 24 hours, 23 hours a day on the sound system. And those mantras and prayers, the vibration there is so clean and so even. And the water, when you dip in the water to cleanse, it's like the frequency of the water. There's things out there where they'll show you water and they play. Can put water in a sound bowl and hit the sound bowl, and the water will turn it into sacred geometry, and different shapes will be formed in the water. So it just shows you frequency and vibration. So I love that you knew to tap into it. And the fact that you knew breath was almost a precursor to where you would go.
Yeah.
And so when I met you, your mom had passed and you were on the spiritual path. Tell us about Bali. So after your mom passed is when you were called to go to Bali. So tell me about what led you to your first time. Bali is a place I've always wanted to go, and it's just really far away. I knew someday I would make it and I would go back again and again. What called you to Bali, and tell us how you ended up first going there?
Yeah. So, my now business partner and I used to work in the agency world together. We were colleagues, and then she became my boss. So we were very close and very dear friends. And after my mom passed, I was in rough shape. It was like life earth shattering. Like along with her passing, I, had left my job, broke up with my boyfriend, moved my house. It was just like everything that I ever knew was gone, right? And Paula, my business partner, was just like, "Hey, like I know you're struggling, you're going through a lot. Like why don't we go to Bali? She had already been once, I think the year before, and she loved it. And I was
Was
just
it a place that you had wanted to go before this? Had you known about Bali or?
not really. I mean, I had heard of it, but I didn't know too much about it. But it was like, after my yoga teacher training and I was exploring spirituality, and she just said, why don't we go to Bali? And I was sitting at her house. I think it was her birthday or my birthday around that time. And I was like, okay. And we booked tickets and left in October. So it wasn't a place that I necessarily knew much about. It was just like, she suggested it, and I was in just such a place that I needed healing. And she had had a rough maybe year or two, with just a lot of things going on in her life. And when she went to Bali, it really helped her. So I was like, okay, I'm up for anything. Like anything people would tell me to help me heal, I tried it, which is how I ended up doing breath work as well. So we get to Bali, and I was already in a place of wanting to create something. I was in this energy of like, I want to do something sustainable. I'm getting into wellness. Like I was already doing work with different health focused brands. So I was already in this place of like, I had taken what I learned from the agency world and said, like, how can I do this, but for conscious brands? So I was working with spas, I was working with health foods, things like that. So I get to Bali, and at first I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I know nothing about this place. It was like,
Where was the first place you went? Was it Ubud?
no, we went to Canggu, and the house was gorgeous, but it was like I just remember us walking up the street one day, and there's just motorbikes and it smells like motor oil, and I'm like, what am I doing in this place? Like, how did I end up here? And she's just laughing because, she knows what a special, amazing place it is, but I'm on like day 2, and our luggage gets lost, and it's just the crazy travel stuff that happens. And so we were here for a month, and within a couple days, we're looking at properties. She was in real estate at the time. I'm like, let's go look at houses. Like we could buy a house here, Paula. Like I was just in dreamer mode. I was also probably disassociating from life. So like anything felt good to like, let's dream about getting a house on a, foreign island. So we're looking at houses. We're like, oh, let's get this big house and we can, have our friends come, or we could build a retreat center. Like we could do all these things, right? And so we're there for a month. We travel all over. I fall in absolute love with the island. And by the end of the trip, I'm like crying going back to the airport. And I remember this moment happening, and Paula, like, obviously knew what happened with my mom. So she had arranged for us to do a ceremony on the beach for me to like release my mom's spirit, right? And she had talked to the people at the retreat center that we did a retreat while we were there. And so they knew my mom was really connected to butterflies and all of these things, right? So I'm on the phone with Paula, and she's like, we have something special planned for you for tomorrow. And as she's on the phone with me, she's like, a butterfly just landed on my belly. I was like, oh, that was really sweet, So a little nod from mom. And then we're leaving. We get in the car. We're on our way to the airport. And I get a text message, a screenshot, like a photo from the retreat center. And it was of a butterfly on her shoulder. And the retreat manager was just like, your mom said thank you. She just came to say goodbye. And so it was like these little nods were like, okay, Bali's the place you're supposed to be. And so I get home, we're sitting at Paula's house, and I just start working on my computer, and I'm like having a vision, like a download. And I'm just like, okay, I want a retreat center. And like, I am so inspired by Bali. I want it to look like this. And I'm putting pictures together, and I love the open floor living, and it's going to have 6 to 8 bedrooms, and it's going to have a pool, and it's going to have a sauna and a shala. And, we're going to do symbols and all these things there. Right. So that was like put in my computer on Canva, and we just left that there. And many things started to manifest, like different opportunities, potentially a partnership in Miami, potentially another partnership in Miami, and things just weren't working out. Things just weren't, they weren't gelling. It was like it would fall through and then COVID happened. Um,
Right. I love the symbolism with the butterflies. So, to our listeners, a lot of the times when someone passes, something comes for you to represent them and a reminder of who they are and that their spirit is still with us. So whether you believe that or not, I see it as it's a symbolism, and it's a reminder. So for me, it's the cardinal. So I love that. And I just want to share my story. After my dad passed away, I spent a lot of time with my mom. I fortunately had just ended a job and I was able to spend 6 weeks with her. And there was a cardinal that kept coming around. And I was getting ready to leave and come back to Miami. And I walked the dog and I said, please, please, I want to see you before I leave. And as I walked the dog, I looked to my left and there were two houses that were kind of separated. And there was a big telephone wire that ran between them. And right in the middle on the telephone wire was the cardinal. And he just like walked closer and stood underneath and looked at the bird. And it like looked at me and did its thing. And then it dipped and it flew away. So I love that, for you, it was butterflies. So for people out there, just remember that when you lose loved ones is that they can come visit you or just remind you of being there and loving you through something, so for you, it's butterflies. And so I love that symbolism. So that's just something I wanted to share with the audience of those reminders, and it should bring us peace and love that they are still, their spirit is still around. So after that trip to Bali, you ended up back in Miami because that's when I met you, you had already been to Bali, your mom had already passed,
yeah.
and you and I connected and you ended up moving to an apartment like literally down the street from me.
Yeah.
And the COVID thing was starting and we knew that we were possibly going to get locked down. And I said to you, you don't want to be alone. Come stay at my house. It's Mia and I. There's an extra bedroom and let's see what can go from there. And you lived with us for 6 weeks. And I'm so grateful that we had that time together to bond us together. And you talked about breath work. And that is where you got on your path of doing your breathwork certification. So tell us what drew you to that. Anything you want to share about breathwork as a healing modality. Let our audience know a little bit more. And maybe we'll come back one day and go deeper into breathwork, but just touch upon that.
So first, I want to take a pause and thank you for that time because it was such a crazy time in the world. And like, as Susan said, I had just moved into a new house, but I also like didn't have any furniture. Like I literally was just like, okay, I just dropped into a new place and here I am with nothing. And Susan opened her home to me and you did it with such grace and such kindness. And I think about those moments and I have such immense gratitude for you. And yeah, it was, gosh, what a time. So yeah, so in those moments, I had a business still, and with COVID happening, it was events, it was marketing, it fell apart. So I was kind of back in this place of like, okay, what now? We were all in a place of what now. That was just what the universe was experiencing. I had experienced breathwork quite a few times. It was a really helpful modality. There was a beautiful man named Christian de la Huerta in Miami who had led these gorgeous breathwork sessions at his temple called Goddess Temple. And I remember the first time I went, I was like, is there drugs in the air? Like, why do I feel this way? I just like burst into tears and I was like, what is going on? Why am I crying? I have no idea. I just breathed for an hour and now I'm bawling my eyes out. But it was like the first time I felt like I didn't feel numb, and that was really important to me because I had felt so numb after losing my mom. I couldn't feel the way I could feel in the past. So, fast forward a little bit, more more grief. My dad ended up passing away in June of 21. And, this was still COVID time, or no, June of 20, not 21. And so this was during COVID time. So we're still under these crazy regulations. And, you can't go to the beach. You can't see your friends. You can't see your family, like, complete chaos. And I remember in those moments just being like, I need breath work right now. But there was no way to go, breathe in a room with 50 people. Like we weren't even allowed to breathe by ourselves. Um, so I had found a online breathwork school that was doing breathwork sessions online for free. And I was like, whoa, I've never done this before, but I really need something to help me right now. I had to, my dad was a whole different rite of passage in his passing. And it was something where, um, I didn't have a big relationship with him, but in his transition, it was life changing. So I find this online breathwork school, and I knew in that moment it was like, this is it. Like, I need to do this. I need to explore more of this. This is a calling for me. So took some sessions with them, decided to enroll in their school, and the next 8 months I was online and learning about breathwork, learning about the body, learning about spirit, and learning, you know, over the computer like this, like we are right now, about how to feel and how to support others on that breathwork journey. It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's funny because I had the exact same experience in my first breath work. I was at a sleepaway soulful spiritual retreat for adults. It was called Soul Camp. And there was this woman, I think her name is Kathleen Booker. She's out of New York. And I did my first breathwork class. And I was like, what just happened? Like I just was breathing and now I'm crying and feeling all these things. Like, what? And then I remember I went back to the city. It was a Jewish holiday, and I went to a friend's house, and I couldn't explain to them. And it was really frustrating because feel like I should have gone home and not been with a group of people who were asking me all these questions, because I really didn't understand at that time what I had gone through. Now, breath work for our listeners, there's different breaths. This is holotropic breath, and I couldn't even name all of them, but there are different breathwork practitioners and different techniques that can get you to the same results. And it's so amazing of what our breath can do to our body and for our body, our mind, our spirit. Like I love breath work because, in my world, plant medicine, there's all these things, but you can journey, so to speak, and have these experiences, these mystical experiences, as Joe Dispenza calls them, with your own breath. And I just love that. So you took the breathwork training, and what happened from there?
So I did the breathwork training, and I still honestly wasn't certain what was next. Like, I had started leading online sessions, I had some clients, but I was still just not 100% sure. Like, what am I doing with my life? It was just like those few years were just a roller coaster. And it was like I was learning, like, looking back, it was like in those moments, it felt like eternity, of when am I going to get through this? It's like you're just pushing your way through mud. But in those few years, I learned so much and I grew so much. It was like this expansion that I haven't had since, right? It was just this little cosm of time that was poof, the universe exploded. So the founders of the Breathwork School, when right about when I was finishing, they had just opened a retreat center in Italy, and they were like, "We're looking for volunteers. We need some people to come help out." And for me, okay, I'm an event planner. I really want to learn about having a retreat center, so like, it's a perfect match. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to volunteer. It's going to be great. So I decided to go out to Italy for 3 months, and I'm there. And as soon as I get there, they're like, we're canceling our breath camp because um, we're just not going to get the results that we're hoping for. There's still all these regulations, like people aren't really going to be able to get here. So I flew all this way, and they're like, we're not really going to be doing events while you're here. So I was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to learn how to run retreats while I'm here. Um, and it was cold, and it was way up in the mountains in Tuscany. So it was beautiful and gorgeous, and I met nice people, but it didn't feel right. And so I'm just, feeling stuck in the mud. Like, why did I come all this way? I can't believe I'm here. This doesn't make sense. And okay, fine. I have a couple more months to go. So I'm sitting with Amy, who's one of the owners. And one day she is just like, yeah, right now we're going through this process. We're selling our retreat center in Bali right now. And we're just, finalizing, like putting the contract together. And I was like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, we have a retreat center in Bali, and we're in the process of selling it right now. And I was like, but it's not sold yet, right? And she's like, no, we're in negotiations. And I was like, I I want the center. Like that
On it.
it's it's for me. I'm gonna take it. So they were that in itself was another initiation, but they were like, you have to go see it. You can't just decide you're gonna, invest all this money, and you have to go see it. So middle of COVID, trying to get from Italy to Bali, all the borders are shut down, but I flew out there. It was complete chaos. The center had been closed for about a year because of everything going on. So the jungle had decided it was going to start taking it over. And there was no way to tell me no. There was no way to tell me no. It could have been like falling down. I would have been like, it's mine. So yeah, so we decided, Paula and I decided to take it over and be the new land guardians of the Ark. And it was the craziest thing I've ever done in my entire life, but also like the most rewarding, just having done something that's completely the scariest thing. Like, oh, I'm going to move across the planet in the middle of the pandemic, put all of my money into it, and really hope for the best. Like, it's the wildest blind faith I've ever had, but it worked out. so, so it's, yeah.
What's so amazing is that you had this vision of this retreat center, but you came back and it wasn't like you were on the hunt. Like you weren't all the time, I have to do this, I have to do this, I'm going to get a retreat center and what's available in Bali. Like it literally, you opened the doors, you put intention out, and in a matter of time, it found you.
Yeah.
Like it found you. That's what's so unbelievable. You didn't find it, it found you.
Well, and I don't know if I told you this story before, but I love this story. So during my whole breathwork journey with Alchemy of Breath, we would do these online sessions every week, right? And they were called Breathe the World. Anybody could join them. It was every Sunday. And so there was one that I had shared on my Facebook, and it was like, oh, come join us, Breathe the World, right? And they had a picture, and it was just an invite to go to their website and sign up. And in the picture on my Facebook, while I'm going through training in 2020, is a picture of my shala. It's a picture of the Ark. And so a couple years ago, it popped up in my memory feed, and it was like, this day, 4 years ago. And I'm looking at it going, you got to be kidding me. Like this is what I was posting about this. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
I have a story with that. And it's interesting because this came up this weekend too, because someone else had that synchronicity that they didn't realize until later. For me, I used to go to dinner with my landlord every once in a while, and we'd go riding out on his motorcycle and go to dinner. And he took me to this island. And I remember seeing the sign and saying, Treasure Island, Adventure Avenue, where are we? And we went to the street at the end and sat on a bench by the bay. And that was at least 2 years before my house is on Adventure Avenue on Treasure Island. We drove right by my house. I don't even think it was even a vision in my mind at that time that I was going to open a healing home. So it's like you had a picture of it in front of you, I went right by it, and who knew? So I love when those things come up and remind us, hey, I was here already.
Yeah.
I was in your energy. I was around you. So when things change, audience, when your life changes, something might come back and remind you, you already knew this, or it was already there for you. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I want to get into life in Bali and the arc, but there's something else I want to bring up, and you can tell me if you don't want to talk about this. But before the breath work and before this deep journey, you were taking Adderall to get you through work, and I remember feeling like, wow, this girl gets so much done in a day. And
I was taking a lot of different stuff. I mean, to be honest, like, and this is, so I don't look at Western medicine and say like it's the worst thing in the world. I look at it and say there's things that can work together. And I don't think that Western medicine is the only way. Like you were saying, like if we, cut our leg or we're in a car accident or we need, something removed out of our body, like Western medicine is there for that. But what I have challenges with, and this is part of my own experience too, is like when my mom died, I was a disaster. Like I was heavily medicated. I was on Adderall, I was on Xanax, and I was on Zoloft. And that was my cocktail of like how to get through life. And before I met you, I also was drinking through all of that. Like I just didn't have the wisdom or the knowledge or the tools on how to continue to like balance. Like once she passed, it was like the grief took over. And the Adderall, when I had talked to my doctor, I was like, I'm having problems getting out of bed. Like I'm having problems focusing on anything. I can't get work done because I'm just not here. And so he prescribed that. And it wasn't like he didn't he, I don't want to say he didn't care, but he didn't care. It was like a 15-minute appointment and then like, here's your prescription, you're on your way. And so that experience with that is like, that's not how we should be treating people. Like, obviously, I've got serious stuff that's happening. I need support, and those things helped me get through that time. I'm very grateful that I have the tools that I have now. I'm very grateful I was able to overcome that time, but there's a lot of people that don't. And there's a lot of people that rely on medication. And I look at medication, I'm like, okay, it's not a forever thing. Like maybe for some people it is, and that's okay. That's their journey. But I don't believe in my heart of hearts that we need to be fully medicated all the time. I think that it's something that maybe in circumstances, um, especially if you're going through something big, like it can support you, but you need to also find ways to lift yourself up, And I'm not a doctor. I'm not, the most intelligent or wise person when it comes to these things. So I don't mean to offend anybody or hurt anybody in any way, but I do truly believe that like we have the ability to overcome the need for these things, if we're able to work on ourselves, if we're able to go within, if we're able to love ourselves deeper, if we're able to sit with our grief and our pain and our suffering. And so it took time, but yeah, it was a place in my life that I had to look at too. And as I was going through my training, I was like, I don't want this to be my life. Like, I would write about it. I don't want to be doing this. I don't want this to be my life all the time. And it was, I'm writing it into the universe. I don't want to be dependent on things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I agree with you. There is a time and a place where, people do need this stuff. And what's coming to me is that maybe sometimes people depend so much with that quick fix because the spiritual path is work. It's not like you made a decision today, I'm not going to take Adderall and everything changed. You had to do the inner work and heal yourself and find the tools that worked without the medication.
Yeah.
And so it's like you and I both hope for a future that instead of a doctor prescribing a medication, a doctor is going to sit with the patient and teach them breathing techniques and teach them healthier eating and teach them things that they can do to not be on these medications. But yeah, we're not against the Western culture and not the Western culture, the Western medicine, because 100% medicines help people, and even things like Adderall, but they're things that are so addictive that people become so dependent and they don't know how to live without it.
Yeah.
And, we're here to show you there is another way, and it's not necessarily easy, and it's not always going to be a smooth path either. Even within the spiritual world, there are ups and downs, just like regular life. That's what this podcast is for. It's for the audience to know there's other ways out there. And yes, it's work, but you're going to feel more in your body, more connected to yourself, because these things mask our problems. They don't solve our problems. They don't
Right.
heal our problems. And when you were talking about it, I thought about our ancestors, and I thought about the past before all these drugs were created. Did people have other tools that they tapped into?
They had community, and I think it's just kind of an old proverb, but there's one saying that just resonated as you were speaking about the past. It's like, in ancient times, if somebody was sick or they were depressed, the first thing that the village shaman would ask them is, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop creating? And those were the things that were asked upon you. It wasn't like, oh, okay, your life's falling apart. It's like, well, when did you stop having joy? When did you, where did you lose your way? And the village would come and take care of you. In some indigenous cultures, they'd come sing to you, and they'd, if you fall out of structure and you go through addiction, or you go through, these different life experiences where you're just not yourself, they would come and sing your song to you until you were back to yourself. So that, I think, is one of the things that really I struggled with. And it's like, in going through these deep dark times, like, I was in Miami by myself. I was so fortunate that so many of my friends and my family would come to visit me. But like, in the day in and the day out, it was like I had nothing. I had lost everything. I had lost the people and the support system that I relied upon every day. And it's like, well, what do you do then? And so these pharmaceuticals helped me to get through it. But now looking back, it's like, I'm so grateful I was strong enough to wean off of that. And a big part of that was, leaving. It was like leaving that environment, coming to Bali, really shifting my life again and again. But yeah, I think that it's not something that I would say is a forever fix. It's something that's situational. And, to those that struggle with medication, to those that struggle with being dependent, just know that there are resources. There are ways for you to seek help. There are ways to shift. There's ways to transform. And you're looking at two of them right now, having both of us have had experiences with that. We're all capable of making change if we choose.
And thank you for bringing that up, because, even it's interesting, we think about the past, and you talked about the indigenous, and my mind went to even a time of maybe like early 1900s, and it was still people lived in community. Even if they were in a city, even if they were in New York City, they had their pockets of community in the Lower East Side and the tenements and the Jews. And yes, they depend on each other and helped raise kids. I'm sure there was less postpartum depression because the women would come together and help the woman that had the baby. And then not just in indigenous times, just even in times before technology and big industry changed everything and gave us so much distraction. And here at SageFull Living, I think that is one of the things I hope is community. And it's something I still strive for and look for. And my goal and my hope would be is that I can create an online community from the viewers. And I do women's circles at my house, and I can start doing online communities globally, online women's circles, so people can come together and get to know each other and feel supported. Because it is hard. We were in such, yes, we live lonely lives, and the phones keep us also even more isolated from going out and living life and meeting people, because we're living other people's online lives. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think like just one more note. I think that that was a big part of what drew me to Bali, and this is something that um I just encourage people to explore if you're considering traveling is like I witnessed how people live here and the pillars that are at the core of their lives, and I witnessed how happy they were. Like the people that are here, like you won't walk down a street without seeing people with a big smile, and you're going, are they serious? Like, are they just, smiling at me to be nice? Or like, this is their demeanor. This is who they are. And you witness how they live, and they live in community. They live in family. Like there's family compounds, and there might be anywhere from 5 to 25 people living there, and they're all supporting each other, and they're all connected. And you go into a village and they have their village banjar, and all the women go dance together, and all of the men, they make decisions for the village together. But there's like still this communal aspect that in the Western world, like we didn't necessarily grow up with. So I think it really attracted me to see this way of life and witness a culture that, of course, they have their problems. Like it's not, Disneyland, but to just see people live in such a different way and do it with harmony and loving kindness, it was like I'd never witnessed that in such a profound way before.
So you're in Italy, and here's this retreat center, and you fly out and you buy it with Paula, and you went. And Paula did not go with you for the first couple of years. So tell us about, I mean, and yes, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I remember one of the times that you went, were quarantined in a hotel for 9 days. You couldn't leave the room just to get to Bali. So it's like, this was not an easy thing to do. And it's not like you had all the means in the world.
Part of my vision was to have a healing center. And although I had a very strained relationship with my father before he had passed, I shared this with him. And I was like, this is what I want to do, And I had done a GoFundMe because, as you said, I didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, I'm going to start a GoFundMe, and I'm going to raise money for a healing center because maybe there's other people that will believe in this, right? So my dad at the time was like, all right, I'll match whatever money you make, I'll donate. And we had such a tough relationship. We just communicated via email because there was so much trauma in our family. And so he ends up sending me a check for, it was like a couple grand, whatever I ended up, raising at that point in time. And he had, it was like he kind of maybe knew he was sick or something. He was like, well, do you want the house if I die? And what? No, I don't want your house. What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? So fast forward, he ends up passing away. My dad was a gardener his entire life. He lived extremely humbly. He literally like traveled once in his entire life to Alaska outside of being a war veteran in Vietnam. He never left the country. And when he passed, he had left me and my sister a gracious gift. So that was actually part of me being able to do this project in Bali. So in addition to, my mom being a huge catalyst for this project, my dad also had a hand in it. And part of what his life meant to me and means to me is like he really caused a lot of trauma in our family. And he also went through a lot of trauma in his life. So seeing the alchemy of that and healing the generational trauma and working with our ancestors, it's just been a really big shift. And also like alchemizing that gift, alchemizing the energy of the money from a place of, he just tucked it away and was kind of greedy with it, like didn't pay for our school, would never really like help us out. And my mom had to do everything for us. And so taking the alchemy of that money and being like, this money is going to do good for people. This money is coming back into life, and it's coming back into doing something good. And this is going to help people heal. So it was just like this alchemy of like, okay, I've got this gift. I want to do something good with it. And it was like, I already had this intention. So it just merged together. So as much as I want to take credit, I do also want to share like this opportunity came in so many different ways. It was many beings of the universe work together to
Yeah.
create this. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And that's a whole other story of your grief and your processing of then losing your dad, even though there was so much trauma and you guys weren't close. You still had to process that because then you have both of your parents are gone,
Yeah.
So yeah. But I love that he left you that gift. And I know there's so many more gifts that you found out after he passed and, got closer with his family, but you were also able to uncover things about his childhood and his past that probably led to the trauma that he caused in your family. And you were able to forgive and release. Some people would have taken that money and gone on a big trip. They would have taken that money and bought an expensive purse, but you really put it to good use. So you lived in Bali through the pandemic. You had this center that was overgrown with the jungle when you first moved there.
Oh, it
And
was
so
amazing.
here you now, yeah, and now you're in a foreign land. And I don't want to say you don't speak the language because people speak English there, but the culture is different. Business is different. Everything is different.
Yeah.
And here you, how did you do it?
I don't know. Magic? No, it was yeah, so the first 6 months was renovation, man. It was like, everything was still shut down. I mean, I got there in October of 21, so the borders were still pretty much shut. Like I had
Might
gotten
have been
through
October 21.
21. 21. So I literally got through like just as they opened the borders. They were like, "Oh yeah, the borders are open." I was like, "Get me through right now. Let's go." And it was we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, what kind of crazy people buy a retreat center when the whole world's shut down? We did. So the first 6 months was just renovation. It was trying to get the place looking normal. And, Paula's over in Atlanta. She's helping me out. She's giving me direction. Like, here's what we kind of need to tell these guys and how to fix the place. So I've got 20 construction workers in the house while I'm living there. Half of them don't speak English. And I'm trying to explain how I want the floor plan to be while I don't speak the language. And I definitely don't know construction. So it was an interesting rite of passage. Um, I have absolutely no idea how I got through it day by day, I think. But yeah, we took our
I could
first.
say I had a little hand being your support back here
Yeah.
as well.
Susan was my emotional support pet. It was crazy. It was, yeah, I almost lost my mind at least 200 times. But we got through it, and I think we took our first retreat in September of, so it was a full year, renovation, getting the business ready, getting it out there, getting somebody to actually say like, yes, we will book business with you. It took almost a solid year, but we did it.
You did it.
We
And
did.
now you've been living there for 4 years. The arc is so beautiful. I would love for you to share with our audience about the arc and what is offered there, where they can find it. Bali is such a beautiful place, but your place is also very special within Bali. Like you got very lucky with the setup of that place and how it looks and feels, and it's really beautiful, and you're continuing to transform it. So share with our audience about the arc.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. We've put a lot of love into it, and it's in humble gratitude. It's a gorgeous place, and we were very blessed and fortunate that we were able to come in when we did. It's an 8-bedroom retreat center in a beautiful village called Penastanan. And what I think makes the space really special is just like one of the things I fell in love with about Bali is just the open air of everything. And so our shala is open air and it's surrounded by the jungle. You walk into the living room space and you look out at rice paddies. And it's just a space of like really merging nature with, the physical space. Um, and it consists of two houses. So there's one house that has guest rooms, there's another house that has guest rooms, but it doesn't feel like this big, expansive hotel or retreat center. It's like everything's all together. So you're literally, it feels, see, it feels like you're going into somebody's home versus, you're going into a place of business. And I think that that really fosters connection, that fosters safety. It's a really nurturing environment. So I think that when people come there, like one of the first things that we hear is like, I feel like I'm at home. And that's the biggest compliment we can receive is just, yes, yes, please feel at home because this is what we want to create for you. We want you to always feel like you're at home. Yes, so we do yoga, breath work, meditation, we do Bali retreats, and our main focus is just to create a healing space for people to be able to come and be nurtured and experience what they're looking to receive in Bali.
So so some people can go to retreats that you guys are planning, right, and show up, and then facilitators can also come and plan retreats of their own with you, right? And
Facilitators from anywhere in the world can come host with us, and it can be anything from a weekend retreat to a 30-day training, whatever they want. Our team will coordinate everything, we'll create the food, we'll do transportation, like whatever it is they need. We're here to help and support. Yeah.
staff, they're like a family.
They're amazing. And they've, many of them have been with us for years. Our chef has been with us probably 10 or 12 years now. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to share about life in Bali and living in Bali for the last 4 years?
So much. Yeah, I think, what Bali has taught me is how to slow down. And I would say, the gift that I could say that anybody could receive from this land is just how to like really how to really be present. And if you come to this land, if you learn anything about the language, like one of the things that I find most fascinating is there is no word for the past and there's no word for the future. So everything is about being here in the present moment. And so the constant learning for me, because I am from the West, I'm constantly like, Susan, where's the link? 10 minutes ahead. But it's like truly a land of like, we're living in the now. So I would just say, if you're ever considering visiting here, like surrender, allow yourself to slow down, allow yourself to be open, and know that if you do come to this land, like you may have an intention, but you're going to get something different. You're going to get what you need and not what you wish for. Sometimes those things are the same, but this land is like a grandmother's love, she's going to give you a little pat on the butt and be like, okay, this is what you need to work on. This is how we're going to do it. But it is truly one of the most special, magical places on earth. And I truly hope if you choose to make it here, that you connect with the people, you connect with the energy of the land, you really understand, their culture, because without the Balinese people, this land is nothing, it's so, I encourage people to also like, how can you give back more than you receive? If you do choose to come here, what can you do to honor this land and to honor the people that are here and not just take, which oftentimes happens, when we're traveling to other places. Like, what can I do here? How can I, get everything that I came here for? And it's like, what can you give while you're here? How can you give back to these beautiful people? How can you support them and their lives? So that was long-winded, but
That's
yeah.
beautiful. No, it was so beautiful. Thank you for that. And what I found in Bali was I felt free.
Mm.
I felt very free being there. And even in the chaos of the traffic, which is different than here, but it's congestion, especially in Ubud. I just still felt free. There was something about the openness and the trees and the jungle. And it's like, it's not jungle that you're like, oh my God, there's things crawling all over me because these things built within it. But it's that big canopy, palm trees, but one thing that I really loved of the Balinese culture is the rituals.
Mm.
You know, there's so many rituals, and there's so much honoring of the ancestors and honoring of the land and honoring out of ourselves. Like, I think that is just so beautiful. And that's something we don't have here as a culture, because America is such a melting pot. We don't have things that are ritualistic, you know, except for what, a Fourth of July barbecue. You know, it's really beautiful. And thank you for showing me all those different things that we experienced, you know, from the Malakat, the water blessing, to the full moons and the fire and the flower baths. I mean, in a flower bath, it was just something we did at a spa, but it still felt like a ritual. Like, who here takes thousands of petals and lays them in the tub and just pour them on you? And it just, it's transformational. So, our topic today was to do with grief and how grief helped you to transform your life, and how opening yourself up to the healing through grief and having this inner knowing of where you wanted to go, I feel like it was delivered to you. Is there any final things that you want to share with our community?
Yeah, it's actually something I'm glad you circled back. So, it was something that Oren said to me, but it really helped me because, you know, as I was going through, especially the grief of my mom, even the grief of my dad, I was like freight training, searching, you know, like how am I need something to hang on to. So it was like I was creating the mindful community. I was looking at projects. I was getting involved over here. I was just like, it was distraction, but it was also like, how do I keep this energy moving in a positive direction because it had been so bad, right? So it was like, as I was picking myself up over here, I started to like move forward and forward and forward, and I was getting this energy. And I remember talking to Ornaman, and he was like, you know, you're not experiencing post-traumatic stress. You're actually going through post-traumatic growth. And so that like little spin, you know, that little shift, that little like change in the dialogue or change in the narrative, you know, you're not stuck in this grief or this, you know, this stress disorder. It's like you're going through trauma, but instead of, you know, falling on the ground, you're actually growing. And so those words just like helped me along in those dark days of like, I'm growing, you know, I'm actually doing something good with this. Like, yes, I'm deep in grief. Yes, I'm a disaster. Yes, I'm picking myself up day by day and trying to figure it out. But through that, I'm doing something good. I'm trying to help others. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to grow. And it was like every day I would just pick myself up and try to do better. And many days I'd fail. Yeah. So I was, you know, it was 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. But eventually, you know, it led me to where I am now. So I would just say to the audience, you know, if you are in your darkest moments, if you are going through grief, if you have experienced the biggest loss of your life, know that it is hard. It is, but it is not forever. And we get choices in life. So, you know, pain is going to happen in this life no matter what. It's part of the drill. It's part of our learning. It's part of our programming, whatever you want to call it. We're going to experience pain. We might stub our toe. We might break our arm. We might get in a car accident. We might lose our parent. Suffering is optional. And, you know, at some point you get to choose, do I want to stay in the suffering? And sometimes it feels like you don't get a choice, but you do. You do get a choice. And you can choose for it to be 2 years. You can choose for it to be 20 years. It's your choice. But just know that it is something that you can work through. I final thing is just I remember going through Landmark. Susan, did you do Landmark? Yeah.
All three?
All three. I just did one.
Not that I'm
Too much.
recommending that, because I'm not a fan of it, but I did do all three.
I did one and one was enough, but I did get something, I got a couple profound things out of it. But I remember it was maybe like the first day, and they're asking like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, my mom just died." And the guy who's leading the session, he's like, "Well, by the end of these 3 days, you're gonna have chosen that your mom died." And I'm just sitting there and I'm like ready to punch him in the face, ready to walk out the door, ready to scream at him. And I'm just like, okay, and when it comes down to it, yeah, he was right. It's like, I, I, the way that it was presented, you can't change that your mom died. I can't change it. There's nothing I can do. I can't turn back time. Here we are. This is the circumstances. So I can either choose to live life that she's gone, or I can choose to live in the past and be miserable. And so my choice is there. My choice is I can just move forward knowing that she's not there and understanding that this is part of life and understanding that this is going to impact me. And this morning I heard "What a Wonderful World" and I almost cried in the nail salon. Whatever, it happens. This is life. But at the same time, I don't experience that and go, gosh, I'm in denial that she's not here. Like, it's sad, it's hard, but
For me.
there's no poor me. This is just life. It's just it. There's no meaning. This is what's happened, right? So I think that, if you are going through grief, if you are going through loss, the most important thing is find somebody that you can connect with, because you're never alone. And we're all here to love each other and support each other. And it may not seem like people understand, but there are people that get it. Susan gets it. I get it. Like, many people have went through this. And until you open up and you show who you really are, then people can't help you. But if you can bear witness to the pain, bear witness to what you're going through, there are people that will support you and love you through it.
And there are tools. Wow, Tammy, I teared up at that. I mean, thank you so much for that share. That's a really, really beautiful. So thank you so much, Tammy. That was so amazing. Motto here at SageFull Living is live a life aligned, live sageful. So can you share with our audience how you live your life aligned and maybe some of your daily practices to keep you in alignment?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, since I would say at least the last year, like, yoga's been a part of my life, since 2017, but really in the last year, it's become my ritual. So every morning I go to yoga, at least 5 to 6 days a week. That's it's how I start my day. It's how I connect in with myself. I also do a lot of nature walks, just connecting with the earth, connecting with the land. Really being out in nature has made a huge difference in my life. And I think that that's one of the reasons I love Bali, is just seeing that green, hearing the birds, like waking up with nature it's a life changer, man. And, really living a slower life, taking time to reconnect with myself. I'm in a spiritual playground, so there's lots of activities that I can do at any given time, which maybe sometimes I take for granted, but I would say my daily rituals are really, really yoga, walks, and spending time with the people that I love and being in nature. Those are my go-tos.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your journey. Some personal things there as well. Thank you for the vulnerability. And I love you so much. And I'm so grateful that you are a part of my life and a part of my journey. Well, let's just close out.
Thank you.